Whoops. Hi, I'm Steve. Sitting out here next to the koi pond during our COVID-19 self-isolation. A few weeks back, a good friend of mine who had just retired like 2 weeks before Florida went into the stay-at-home order was you know, nothing worse than that. You can retire and now you can go out and do what you want to do, and all of a sudden you can't. So he got bored and reverted to one of his childhood passions, and that was Estes rockets. Most of us from our generation are familiar with them, and I even had one, but it just wasn't my thing. My thing was model trains, and started I think around 1957 when my parents and brother moved from Rock Island, Illinois to suburban Chicago along the CB&Q or Burlington route. And following year I came along, and my dad started building a 4x8 plywood set, tabletop type set, for him and my brother, who was would have been about 7 years old at the time. And my dad worked for Ma Bell, and after World War II went to work for J.I. Case in Rock Island for my uncle. And then my dad left work at lunch one day and went over to Ma Bell and applied, and they gave him the job, and he never went back after lunch. Didn't make my uncle too happy. A little friction between them for years afterwards. So, but he started as a telephone lineman, climbing poles, and circa 1948, and then moved into switching stations and maintained and repaired all the contactor relays on the telephone switching stations in and around the Rock Island Moline area. In 1957, based upon his work, he was promoted to the headquarters building in downtown Chicago as a engineer. So off to Chicago we went and bought a house, as I said before, suburban Chicago on the Burlington, the CB&Q. And about 6 miles, not 6 miles, excuse me, 6 blocks away from the tracks and the local train station. So he'd walk to the train station on nice days and walk home after work from the train. And on bad days, Mom would go pick him up, take him and pick him up. And I always looked forward to those days so I could ride with my mom and hide in the back seat and pop up when my dad came up to the car. But moving forward a little bit, my brother, when I was probably 3 or 4, early 60s by this point in time anyway, he and one of his buddies, he was 6, 7, 8, about 8 years old, decided they're going to use the train as a racetrack. And they cranked that thing up, and off the tabletop, a really nice passenger train went. And a few years later, he was shooting at the cars with his BB gun. And of course, I too young to really enjoy it. And my dad packed up the train and put it in a back portion of the basement. And what was left of the rail cars, he put up in the rafters in the attic of the basement. So when I turned about 7, 8 years old, I found the train set, and I asked him about it, and he was very curt with me, saying how we ruined the train set, and I didn't have anything to do with it. Well, I had expressed interest on that, and I mean, I was looking at the Sears wish list catalog as soon as it came out, and there were a couple other wholesale places in downtown Chicago, Bennett Brothers and K&G, and they would have their annual catalogs, and they'd have trains in there, and I'd wear those pages out looking at those. And my dad finally got the hint, and that Christmas was train Christmas for me. I got a Varney, most people probably never even heard of them, a Varney HO set, and then a bunch of other engines and cars to work with. My dad set up the train set again, and I mean, I had years of fun with that. And it was a real passion for me growing up. Well, you know, you hit the teenage years, and trains aren't necessarily cool anymore, so I had to limit my time when on rainy days when no one else was around and so forth. And then high school rolls around, and you know, it all gets packed away. Then college rolls around, and you know, I got the itch again and set it up at home when I was home on break and so forth. And once I graduated from college and moved south to San Antonio, met my wife, we had kids, and it wasn't until some years later that I built a tabletop for my son. And I still had a lot of those old trains from my early years. But my son, you know, he was 7, 8 years old, and again, he did not have the interest in it. So everything got packed away, and for another 30 years. And well, like I said, my good friend Henry, talking about his childhood passion with the Estes Rockets. I was sitting around here one afternoon, and I said, you know, I still got all that stuff packed away in the attic. So I got it all down from the attic, and decided I was going to at least go through it and look at it and reminisce a little bit. So I got them inside. We'll go inside and take a look at them. I just wanted to show you the koi pound, which has been my hobby for the last 20 years, Japanese koi. And let's go on into the lanai, which is right through there, and it's all enclosed and weathered in. So we'll go in there and take a look. So here we are in the lanai, my man cave. I'll give you an idea what it looks like. It's 22 by 9, and give you an idea, this is my box of stuff that needs work. Box of dilapidated model kits, some very old track. These are my some of my restored cars. A bunch of my blue box Atherns, and it's funny to look at these. You know, you go to a hobby shop now, and if you looked at a SW7 calf, powered calf, Southern Pacific, I can guarantee you it costs more than $21.50. So I made a little strip of test track, and I broke out my old throttle. That throttle is circa 1967, 68, and by golly, it still works. So this area here is going to be, I decided I'm going to go ahead and build my train set. Alright, and I'll show you a diagram of that, and what I did on some cheap Atlas software, and Of course, I've got like 8 versions of it so far. But anyway, my control center is going to be there. And Chicago's going to be here. So we'll keep you updated on progress and go from there.